Hi there, I'm Yasmin Boland and this is your rescue.com.au astrology video for November 2017. So this month, the main feature of the month astrologically is the Saturn-Uranus connection. If you read your monthly stars, it'll be in there telling you what it means for your sign in particular. But I just wanted to take a moment to talk about what it means in general for everybody, because it's actually quite fascinating, and I'm hoping it's going to help us all to feel as though 2017 has actually been energy well spent. So Saturn is the planet of hard work, and Saturn is currently at the end of a 2+ year stay in the sign of Sagittarius. And Uranus is the planet of change, of revolution, of sudden turnarounds, and it's currently at the end of a 7-year stay in the sign of Aries. So in fact, next year, 2018, there's going to be a lot of change. We're going to have Saturn moving into Capricorn, Uranus moving into Taurus, lots of other things going on as well. But right now, I want to focus on what's happening now with Saturn and Uranus. So Saturn is the planet of hard work and effort and tasks and duties and responsibilities. Okay, so wherever Saturn goes, there are lessons, there are jobs to do. It can be quite tiresome, it can be quite grueling, and if you happen to be Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising in particular, or Gemini rising, you will have been feeling Saturn plus these past few years as Saturn's trolled his way through the sign of Sagittarius. But for all of us, Saturn in Sagittarius has been what you might call a bit of a fun buster. Saturn spoils things, and Sagittarius is the sign of laughing and comedy. So having Saturn in Sagittarius has, in some ways, dulled the humour of the world. It's made things a little bit less light and jolly. Okay, that's the negatives. What I want to talk about now is the positive. Saturn is also about hard work and achievements and things like agreements, contracts. You know, it's about the foundations of life. It's what you can build things on. It's concrete. It's very durable, okay? And it's effort made. And now, as we come to the end of the Saturn in Sag period and we come to the end of 2017, we get Saturn making this aspect this month to the planet Uranus, the planet of change, the planet of excitement, the planet that allows revolutions and modernity and progress. So I am thinking that Saturn trining Uranus like this on November the 11th is actually going to be a wonderful thing for many of us who've been working hard. So if you've been working hard, there is every chance that this month is going to make you start to see how your hard work is paying off and how all your hard work has actually been worth it. And I don't think this is me just you know, having a hopeful self-fulfilling prophecy. Saturn trine Uranus really does speak of hard work paying off, hard work leading to change, hard work paying dividends, and maybe something exciting coming from it as a result. Now, wherever you have Saturn in your chart, you are extra likely to be feeling this, okay? So I'm going to quickly run through where Saturn is for all the signs. And if you know your rising sign, actually you're even better off listening to that, because that will give you a more accurate reading, a bit like if you were to come to me or go to an astrologer and get a personal one-on-one reading, because using your rising sign is actually making your chart look like it actually looks when it's based on your personal time, date and place of birth, as opposed to just your sun sign. Okay, and if you want to get your chart done, I will put the link in the description below so that you can get a free chart and find out your rising sign. Okay, so if you are Aries or Aries rising, Saturn in Sagittarius has been in your 9th house, which is all about travel, study, and the world picture and the world view. It can be a time where you've actually done a lot of study, and if so, it's almost certainly going to start paying off right about now. If you're Taurus or Taurus rising, Saturn's been in your 8th house of cash and sex. So again, if you've been working hard, the cash should come. If you've been working on your sexual side, on your sexual relationship, that should start to get a bit more interesting now as well, let's put it like that. If you're Gemini or Gemini rising, you've actually had one of the toughest of all the transits, because you've had Saturn in your 7th house of love. So relationship efforts, work you've been putting into your relationship should start to pay off now. any relationships that you're still having now that have survived the past couple of years can probably survive just about anything. Cancer or Cancer rising, Saturn's been in your 6th house of daily work, okay, and health. So if you've been working hard, you've been working on your health, your morning and evening routines, things like that, again, efforts soon to pay off. For Leos, Leos have had, and Leo rising people have had Saturn in your 5th house, which is your house of fun, okay? So if you have been having less fun in the last couple of years, that's because of Saturn in your 5th house, but that should now start to come to an end, if it hasn't already started to. These things don't go on and off like a light switch. It can be a gradual process. We're so near to the end of this cycle. For Virgos and Virgo rising people, Saturn's been in your 4th house of home and family. So efforts you've been making with your family, maybe to buy a home, sell a home, all those efforts are going to start to pay off now. Okay, so for Libra and Libra rising people, Saturn's been in your 3rd house. Your 3rd house is actually your mind zone. So if you've been teaching yourself to think positively, if you've been trying to train your brain, you've been working on yourself to focus on what you want, not on what you don't want, now is when you're going to start to reap the rewards of that. For Scorpios, it's actually very good because it's in your 2nd house of cash and self-worth. So values and self-values, worth and self-worth. Again, Saturn in this part of your chart can be difficult, can make you scared of money, can bring you money troubles. However, the end of this cycle means, with the Saturn trine Uranus that we're getting this month, can mean that your hard work is actually going to literally pay off in cold hard cash. For Sagittarians, of course, it affects your whole life. Your whole life has been an effort in the past couple of years. For most Sagittarians, as Saturn's gone through your sign, it only happens once every 30 years. And now, as we get the Saturn-Uranus trine, it should be you're going to see that all the things you've been doing have not been in vain whatsoever. For Capricorn, it's about your spiritual life. So where have you been making efforts spiritually? And where you've been trying to grow spiritually is where you can now grow spiritually. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising people, it's been in your 11th house of friendship. Okay, so it might have been tough for you with friends in the last couple of years, and maybe you've got rid of a few people who actually were not really friends. But now, as we get the Saturn-Uranus trine, you should actually have a really good experience with friends. You should see who your friends really are, and you should be able to really see who you're going to take with you into the future. Finally, for Pisceans, really good news. Saturn's the work planet and has been in your 10th house of career and ambition for the last 2 years. So a lot of you have been really having trouble in your careers. But again, now with the Saturn-Uranus trine about to end the year for us so mightily and symbolically, it should be that you start to feel quite good about where you are in your career, and you can see how all the efforts you've been putting in finally do start to pay off. So I hope that helps you see how positive the Saturn-Uranus trine this month is going to be, and how it actually can bring a really lovely feeling as we head towards the end of the year, head towards the holidays, and start to think, what have we done with the year? Hopefully you can start to see that whatever you've done has actually been very much worthwhile, okay? While I've got your attention, I also wanted to talk about the Venus-Jupiter connection on the 13th of November. I've mentioned this in the stars on this site, but I wanted to talk about them as well, just because this only happens once a year, and it's a really, really lovely moment. Basically, it makes the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th really good time potentially for friends, for lovers, for love, for social times, anything like that. So anything particularly you have on the weekend of, say, the 10th, 11th and 12th is really well starred. Venus is the planet of love, Jupiter is the planet of good times, and when they get together once a year, it's a really good time to be with people you love, have a good time with people you love, start a new relationship, take a relationship to the next level, make a declaration of love, anything to do with good times and love and happy feelings and friends and so on. If you're into doing spells, and I know some of you are, it's a really, really good night to do a love spell, but just remember, you must never, ever manipulate anyone, because it can bounce back on you 3 times in a really negative way, and I've seen that happen to people. Do not go there. finally, and not to end on a negative note, I just want to say the 19th of November is another date for your diaries, and it's kind of a difficult one. What I always think when I see this connection between Mars and Pluto, it's a Mars-Pluto square, is this. When people ask me about astrology and they say, how can it work? How does it happen that, you know, you can look at the stars and you can say what's going to happen? You can look at the planets and you can make predictions like this. And I say, well, for thousands and thousands of years, people have been researching what happens, you know, as above, so below. So what happens when Venus meets Jupiter? It's a good time for love. What happens when Mars squares Pluto? It can be a really difficult day. The reason being that Mars is the planet of anger and Pluto is the planet of fury, and a square is tough. So when Mars squares Pluto, it's actually a recipe for quite intense, passionate, possibly angry times. It can be very creative, it can be magical, and it can also be extremely sexy, okay? But it can also be a hot spot for anger. So just make a note around the 18th, 19th of November. If you start to lose your temper with someone, consider biting your tongue, counting to 10, and trying to re-find your cool, because it is potentially an intense time. Okay, so that's November. I hope that's helped you make sense of the month, and I look forward to speaking to you next month. Thanks for listening.